welcome to this episode of Rewatchers Council. I'm Adelia, that's my buddy Shug. We're black and white today because these two episodes of WandaVision were black and white, and I love them. What about you, Shug?
Yeah, right. Like this is actually pretty cool. I might leave this for the rest of the time. I think yours is a little darker because you have the blurred background and I have the bright pink background,
Yeah,
so it makes me look a little and probably my lights. But it's pretty funny. But yeah, we're gonna talk about WandaVision and it kind of interesting. Kind of took me back. Growing up, I know this is off topic, but growing up watching I Love Lucy with my
yeah.
grandparents, and that's what it felt like, and just it was kind of
Mm-hmm.
funny. So, yeah,
Yeah. I watched all those old sitcoms on Nick at Night in the summers or when it was a school night and something I wanted to watch wasn't on or whatever. But yeah, I absolutely adore this series. I adore the sequel series, Agatha All Along. We'll get to that when we get to it. But we're here today to talk about the first two episodes of WandaVision. And Shug, what are your first impression of these episodes on the rewatch?
so it's funny because I remember watching the whole series, and I remember people were saying, like it didn't like you watch certain movies, certain shows, and you'll be like, "This is a Marvel project,"
Yeah.
and that's what these two episodes felt like. It didn't feel like a Marvel project. It literally felt like I Love Lucy, one of my favorite shows growing up. And
Mm-hmm.
even though obviously Vision, the way he looks and everything,
Yeah, yeah.
and you obviously know it's Wanda. You're
Wanda with the
like,
magic.
yeah, you're like, it's an MCU show, but it just didn't feel like it, and it was kind of refreshing. Um,
Yeah.
but then there is like little parts of it that sprinkle in the Marvel kind of feeling, and I was okay with that. Like it didn't need, like we talked about this with another show. I don't know. We'll probably do a review on that, so I don't want to bring it up. But like, it didn't feel like a Marvel show because it wasn't a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
action and everything.
Yeah.
This gave you a good story, and again, it slowed down, and it made it like a grounded level show, which I liked, and it's kind of refreshing to see a show like that. So I loved the nostalgic of those old, like you said, Nick at Night kind of TV shows, um, with the little sprinkling of the MCU. So
Yeah.
I liked it. It was very felt nostalgic for me.
Yeah, it felt nostalgic to me too. I love the TV tropes idea that they went with this, where every episode is a different like sitcom. I love that. Like episode one, we get into episode one, and immediately the first thing I noticed is it's 4:3 resolution instead of the 16:9 widescreen, and I was like, okay, what are we doing here? This is a little interesting. It's black and white, like all that stuff, and you go from there, and you've got all the confusion in the first episode about what the heart on the calendar meant and everything, and it's just so simple, but it's so effective.
Yeah, for sure. Like again, I know, like you in your notes you were talking about Dick Van Dyke, but like it really felt like I Love Lucy, where it was like
Yeah,
most simple thing, but the problem or the issue became something bigger.
yeah,
Um, because it was like, oh, what's this heart mean? Oh, and Wanda's trying to figure it out. He's trying to figure it out, and then he figured out what it is, and then he calls her and he's like trying to tell her, but she thinks it's something different. So they're like miscommunicating. She's like, "Don't worry, I'll take
yeah,
care of it." And he's like, "Okay, everything has to be perfect for tonight." And she's like, "Oh, why? It's just our anniversary," not knowing that it's about the boss coming over to have dinner.
yeah. The boss coming over to have dinner. I said Dick Van Dyke style intro because the actual like intro, the WandaVision musical intro, reminded me more of Dick Van Dyke than I Love Lucy. But there's a lot of I Love Lucy vibes
Oh
in this
yeah,
first episode, for
yeah,
sure.
for sure.
We also get the interesting commercial breaks in these episodes. The first one was for a Toastmate 2000 from Stark Industries, but is notable to me because when the red light comes on the toaster, it's the first time we see a color in this episode. I think
Yeah.
it's the only time we see color in the first episode.
In episode one, yeah, I believe you're right because episode
Yeah.
two, but, yeah, it's interesting. That's you see color. You know what I also find it just totally off of what I like remember growing up as a kid of
Mm-hmm.
of the audience, like when they cheer or they
Oh,
sigh.
the studio audience.
Yeah, it's so like we don't like you don't see that anymore. Like you don't get that anymore from shows. Like everything's on Netflix or Hulu or whatever, and
Well,
it's
you
just
do get it if you watch network TV, but yeah, not.
yeah, network TV. But you don't like who watches network TV anymore. Like it's all
Yeah.
sometimes some people do, but it's just I don't
Some
know.
people
It
do.
was interesting to hear that. But yeah, the toaster. I mean, and it was kind of sexist too because it's like oh, here's a toaster and there's a woman and she's got the homemaking outfit on, and it's like oh wow, like toast can be made by anybody. Why do you have this lady,
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
it? It was
Very
little things
much.
like that. It was little things like that.
Little things like that. Yeah.
yeah. So I was like, oh,
Um, episode 2, 4:3 ratio again. We get an animated intro this time. Totally Bewitched.
Yes, yes, that took me straight back to Bewitched. Like I
Yeah.
remember Bewitched a lot. Like it was super Bewitched. Even with like how Vision was changing from the robot part of him to human form. Like I
Mm-hmm.
remember in Bewitched how she would change, like how she was a witch and then change it to something else, or was she a genie? It was a no, it was
She,
It was
she
it
was a
was
witch,
yeah. What's the
but
one
it's
with the
called
genie?
Bewitched. I Dream of Jeannie,
I
I
Dream of
think.
Jeannie. Yeah, I think she had a similar attitude, but she would change like her outfits, and he was
Mm-hmm.
doing that where they were like flying, and he would change from human to robot back to human. So that I actually really enjoyed that. It took me back, made me feel nostalgic.
Yeah. We have the second commercial in that episode for Strucker watches.
Hmm.
It says Strucker Swiss made Hydra 1000M, and it's got the Hydra symbol on it when they show the
Yeah.
close up of the
Well,
watch.
remember who Strucker is?
Yeah, Baron von Strucker,
Yeah,
who is the one she and Pietro volunteered to, and for the experiments that gave them their powers.
yeah,
So I always thought that the commercials were going to lead to something. Like all the pieces of the
yeah,
commercials, you got Stark Industries and Strucker and stuff. No, it's just stuff from Wanda's past.
yeah. I
I don't
mean,
think it leads to anything.
see, this is the thing about rewatching stuff. Like, if we have watched it for the first time, we are probably talking about, oh, this is leading to something, like, but we
Yeah.
know it doesn't. So it's like,
Yeah,
no.
absolutely.
But if for the first time watching it, you're 100% like, oh, this is going to lead to some big reveal or something. But it's like clue because it's like Stark Industry. Hmm. Okay. Obviously, we know one of the things she talks about is the missile that hit that didn't blow up that said Stark Industries on it. So that would make sense of why she remembers that. The Strucker
Mm-hmm.
watch, Hydra, who gave her their powers, and how they were influencing by them. So and now thinking about it, I want to kind of when the next we watch do the next episodes, I want to see if there's anything that talks about Ultron or anything like that. I don't remember, so obviously we're doing a rewatch, so it's kind of cool to go back and revisit it. So I'm gonna be looking for things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Um, let's highlight some moments in the episodes that we really enjoyed. You want to start with one that you really enjoyed?
Um, I the dinner scene in the first episode was
Yeah.
it was just really an I Love Lucy situation with obviously
It
Marvel.
was so awkward, but
Yeah,
also brilliant.
yeah, like where they come in the house and she's like he goes to the kitchen. I'm gonna go look for my wife, and she comes out in like a nightie, which is back in those days was like really covering up everything. Like there was nothing
Oh yeah.
scandalous about it,
Oh
but
yeah.
they were acting
Oh
like it was
yeah.
like, oh my god, what are you wearing? Like she's covering everything. What are we doing here? Like there's nothing
Yeah, and
showing,
the
but
cover up for the covering the eyes greeting and everything was
yeah.
that it's the traditional Sokovian greeting.
Yeah. So it was
And
just hilarious. And then she's
yeah.
like, "Oh, I got to make dinner." So she's trying to figure it out. And like she was just doing stuff that like I Love Lucy would do.
Mhm.
and then Agatha comes to help her, and she's the little jokes about the lobster, and the only thing left is the steak, and he's got to tenderize it. He goes, "Do you want to tenderize or pulverize?" Which is hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's so funny, but it was
I don't
funny
know
to
why
me.
that's so funny, but it's very funny.
Yeah, and then they're
Who would
just
want a pulverized steak?
steak, right? And they're like you said, they're going through all these like 1950 TV show tropes, like just
Yeah.
and she's trying to use her magic, and then like she makes the dinner, and then it's breakfast, and
It's
so
breakfast, yeah.
like the boss kind of like is like, okay, I'm hip to this, so that was kind of fun. And we'll get into like kind of what happens in the dinner because that was kind of like crazy. But what were some moments for you?
I love the introduction of Agnes. She just comes over and is like, "Hi." She talks about her husband Ralph, which is a thing that I never picked up on the first time. That she mentioned Ralph this early,
Mm,
because we know who Ralph really is. It's
mm.
not her husband. It's the
Yeah,
guy she's basically kidnapped and stole his house. So that was interesting. I love when she comes over and is like, every gal has a four-course meal just lying around or something like
yeah,
that. That
yeah.
was really funny. Um, I also enjoy Vision at work
Yes.
when he's just like typing as fast as he possibly can, and then he's got all those computations done for Norm, and then he asks Norm what they actually do there, and
And
Norm's
they
like,
give him no
I don't
answer.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they give him
yeah,
no answer. He's like, so do we sell something? Like, what do we do here? And he's like, I don't know. We just do this.
yeah. That was really funny to me. Um, but the dinner scene is the stuff at the house with the dinner is really the biggest part of this episode, and the most interesting to me.
Yeah. And then, when we get into the dinner, like it was, when you're watching it, like you pick up on the little clues again of like something's wrong. The
Mm-hmm.
way that the wife who's from that '70s show is like telling her like, stop it. Like the way
Yeah, the
she
way
like,
Mrs. Hart just keeps repeating it and repeating
yeah,
it.
and the way she's looking at Wanda while she's saying it. Um, and then
Mm-hmm.
he kept asking her like, "Why are you here? Why are you here?" And like the husband demanding to know why she's here. You
Yeah.
start like you're like if you like you're just like, why is he acting like that? And so you start to pick up on little things that are kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it is interesting of how they play that, and they don't like throw it in your face. It's subtle things. Like in episode 2, there's a little bit of a thing that is like kind of like here, couple of things,
Couple
but
things in episode 2, yeah.
yeah, but in this one, like they don't like automatically start going into that. They kind of, they're slowly showing you stuff, and then at the end, when the credits are playing, it pans out, and you see that there's this room of someone watching it, and they turn off the TV, but it's like a
That was
monitoring.
so weird the first time when I
Yeah,
watched this episode. Like, what do you mean
like you.
someone's watching this on television?
Yeah, and like again, like when you're watching it for the first time, you're like, "What the heck?"
Mm-hmm.
you know but then once you watch it, you're like, oh, okay. And the layers that they build with this show, because when
Yeah.
you finish it and you start looking at everything back, you're like, oh, okay, that was dope. They were trying to show you this is what this meant, you know and
Mm-hmm.
you when you start to connect the dots, it really makes it interesting, which is why I like this show. Because again, it's a Marvel show, but it's not just action and superheroes and things like that. Like it really went ground level storytelling, and then built up to something, toward the end. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I agree. They really built a lot of like hints in there that something wasn't right. Like, they don't know the story of how because Mrs. Hart asks them for their story. Where did they move from? When did they get married? And why don't they have kids yet? And they can't come up with anything to
Yeah,
tell them.
yeah,
So, the layers in the show are really interesting, and I love how they built them here in the first episode. And that end was just like an incredible, like, because they start to roll the credits with Wanda and Vision sitting on the couch after they've decided that today would be their anniversary, and Wanda made them rings, and their song was going to be Yakety Yak, which was very funny. But then the credits roll, and I was like, oh, okay, that's a good end to the episode. And then this person watching on TV, you know, we don't know who it is yet, so I won't say. But that just threw me off when I first watched this. But like now, watching it now, I'm like, oh, okay, I get where they're going with all of this. Of
Yeah.
course, I haven't watched this show since it came out. So it came out in January of 2021. So that's
She's
over
5 years
5 years
ago.
ago.
That is
Yeah.
wild.
So that is how long it's been since I've watched this show. But I can remember things about it and like know pick up on clues and things like that. We see the actual credits roll after we see the person on the television, and I just think this first episode is brilliant.
Yeah.
Like they did the comedy so well, and the part in the kitchen at the beginning of the episode where she's got like the dishes flying and stuff like that, they did that all practical. If you watch from the Marvel Studios assembled WandaVision, which I don't know if that's still up on Disney Plus, but if it is, you should watch it because it's really interesting on how they made WandaVision, like the
Yeah.
whole series. So, like Vision in the black and white, the purple makeup wasn't showing up correctly on the black and white, so he was blue because that would make it show up correctly on the black and white.
Yeah.
So just all the little tricks of television from yesteryear and everything that they had to do to make it work for this, I thought was really cool as well.
Yeah, for sure. I again, like you said, like each episode, it goes into like a new version of a TV series.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, like I said, I really enjoyed this because it reminded me a lot of I Love Lucy. And then in the second episode, it reminded me of almost like a trying to remember like a Andy Griffin, more like because it like more I want to say up to date because Andy Griffin was like in the sticks, but like the picture looks a little bit better or
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, like it looks a little
Yeah.
bit more fine, and actually at the end of the episode we see something happen. So it was like it was interesting. Like again, I like the direction they went with this show to make it a Marvel show, but to kind of
Mm-hmm.
think outside the box with it
Yeah. Yeah.
and present
I
it.
agree. Yeah. So let's talk about episode 2 now. Um, the beginning with them in the separate twin beds and the noise outside was so funny.
I always ask I used to ask my mom all the time because I never understood that why in a TV show did couples sleep in separate beds, and I ended up finding out that a lot of old school couples still did that. Like
Yeah.
like back at like back in the day, they slept in separate beds, and I was like, that is crazy. So to bring
Yeah.
that trope was cool. Like it's kind of kind of interesting because people forgot that kind of time when they did that. Um, the yeah, the noise thing, you know, you don't know what it is, and again, like as we get into more episodes, you kind of start like piecing things together. Um, but like there's points like I don't know if you notice this, but there is times where like Wanda breaks, like she's
Mm-hmm.
in the show, but then all of a sudden she comes out of it for like a minute or two, you know.
Yeah.
And like when he's looking outside, like like at the dinner episode with the wife, she breaks and she's
Yeah.
like, "Vision, help him," and she
Yeah.
changes. The character changes. And in the bed scene, there was a scene like that where she's like, what is going on? And then she goes back to being the character of the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was cool, like because again, they're dropping little hints that like you said, something's not right. There's
Yeah.
this noise that's making and as you're watching, you're like, that's not tree branches hitting the house. It's a little loud. And then they kind of do the whole what we would consider like romantic scene where like she makes the bed one and put the covers and they cover themselves to like do
Yeah.
something. So that was pretty funny. I really enjoyed that. It was kind of a cool little like nod to back in those days TV shows.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved that they were in the separate beds because I remember like that from the older TV shows and
Yeah.
stuff. Like I don't know if there was a thing where a man and a woman couldn't be shown together on TV in the same
Maybe.
bed back then. That could be it too. But yeah, a lot of older couples did sleep in separate beds, some of them in separate bedrooms, which is just
The
insane
separate
to me.
bedrooms is weird. Separate beds, I get because you sharing a blanket with somebody is like the worst thing in the world. I mean, it really is the worst thing in the world. So separate beds make sense. Separate rooms, that is just weird. Like being a
Yeah.
couple. Like we're gonna share separate rooms. Like, do you not like this person? Why did you marry him? If you're saying
Yeah.
separate rooms, so that's funny. Yeah, I agree with you. It really back like again old school TV show nostalgia. Maybe that's like you said. Maybe they couldn't show somebody that's not actually married in a bed together, like because actors weren't married. They were just playing
Yeah.
like they were married.
Yeah. Could be. Then we find out about the magic show
Yeah,
because Vision is playing, pr- you know, practicing for the magic show, and it requires something called the Cabinet of Mysteries. And Wanda wheels it out, and he asks if that's too much, and she says somebody is building a moat, and no one knows why. So that was really funny to me.
yeah,
Hello, Greg. Greg is in the chat saying he loves the black and white. Well, we're reviewing the black and white episodes of WandaVision, so we felt it was only necessary.
right.
Um, what do you think of this whole scene where like they're practicing for the magic show? Because there's some funny jokes in here, and then they each like are going to different meetings after this.
Yeah, so I mean, again, it's like the old school TV tropes. Like, they're she's talking about how I want us to fit in, and and so we're gonna do this, and he's practicing it, and he's being very human toward her, and and
Mm-hmm.
she's kind of like again living out this whole situation of trying to like you said in the first episode, they had like no backstory, like they didn't even know why they
Yeah.
were there or what's going on. So she's like trying to make it work for them, and be accepted and things like that. So she's talking about, oh, I'm gonna go to this thing, the home, it was a home maker or home something meeting, and
Planning committee.
planning committee,
Planning
yeah.
committee meeting.
And they're talking about how this magic shows for the children, and that was a thing too. Like they kept saying children, like
Mm-hmm.
for the children. Like that was like, the heck is going on? It's
That
kind of
was
weird.
when I noticed we had not seen a child yet in this.
Yeah, yeah. And but then she finds the helicopter outside that's red.
Mm-hmm. It's red.
So
It has a sword on it too, a sword logo, and it's because it came from S.W.O.R D, the like secondary thing that followed Shield that
yeah,
became like that in the universe. But I didn't notice until today that it has this like logo on it with a sword.
yeah. Again, once you watch it again, you start picking up on stuff. Um,
Yeah.
and when she sees it, you again, it's the moment where she like kind of is taken out of the character.
Yeah, and it's red and yellow, and I didn't know if that was going to tie into the Stark Industries thing
Mhm.
from the first commercial. It obviously didn't ever tie into that, but maybe it was Stark Tech, which is why it turned red and yellow. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it was the first thing we'd seen in Westview that turned color
Yes.
because the commercial didn't really count.
Yeah. And so it was interesting to see that, and then like you said, they kind of go, they're gonna go do the separate meetings, and Agatha meets up with her, and she's telling her, oh, Dottie is just like, you got to get in with her, and again they keep talking about kids, oh, school,
Mm-hmm.
and like, okay, and they go to their different meetings, and she's there, and Wanda's like talking to her, and they're doing, and they're like being real rude to the lady, talking about chairs and things and being real rude, and they're just like,
Yeah,
yeah,
Dottie comes off as a bit of a bitch this
yeah,
at a meeting. She was like, "Well, I know what you won't be doing, chairing a committee," because she didn't ask about the chairs. Like it's just like I know some people
Rude.
would probably like that, but it's so rude.
Yeah, yeah, it was really rude, and kind of like Vision going trying to be more human. He goes to this thing, and they're like, the way when he walks in and how he talks, and they're like, that's weird. And then he kind of like gets into the groove of how they're acting. So and they start to like, oh, okay, cool. Well, we can, we'll hang out with you. Um,
Yeah, they're like sharing all the pertinent hot gossip around
which is
town.
weird.
Somebody's bowling trophies he bought at a garage sale in Hackensack, and I forget what the other one was. But then Vision goes, "I have some."
he's
Nora's a
he's a comic,
communist,
yeah. Which back
and
in the
they all
day
just
would have been a
crack
thing.
up
Yeah.
laughing.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. And then, excuse me.
They also then asked Vision if he wanted a piece of Big Red after we had this funny scene where Vision says, "Oh no, I don't eat food," and then he tries to cover it up by saying he means in between meal times. He eats like an eating machine at meal times, but not in between meal times.
Yeah, yeah, and the gunman actually plays kind of a thing in the
Big
situation.
part.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. But yeah, we kind of go back to Wanda where she's talking to Dottie, and like Dottie is like, "Oh, I'm watching you and your husband because you guys are, you know." I forgot exactly what she said, but she kind of accuses Wanda of something, and Wanda's like, "There's nothing to fear from me and my husband." And then all of a sudden, the radio starts, saying stuff, and it's like, "Wanda, who did this to you?" And she, Dottie breaks a glass, and like,
Hmm.
kind of, I think she kind of snaps out of what she's in, and then
She and her blood on her hand is also red.
yeah, and then they snap back into it, and so she helps her clean her hand, and she's like, which was the joke? She said, how do you solve something? She goes, you do it
Um,
yourself.
she says, "Pop quiz. How does a housewife get a blood stain out of white linen?" And then she
Yeah,
goes, "Doing it herself," and
yeah,
walks away.
yeah, which is weird.
It's very weird. But I guess it's like a somewhat appropriate thing to say from back then. Like no one would I don't think anyone would say that now. They'd be like, "Oh, thank you for the help. I just cut my hand really badly,"
Yeah,
whatever. Like who cares that she's getting blood on the white linen because obviously she has a very large cut in her hand. And the whole thing with Dottie was just very weird. I like Dottie more in um Agatha all along than I do in this, just because she comes off as such a controlling bitch at that meeting.
right. Real, like back in the day, backstabbing, kind of manipulative,
Yeah,
housewife trope that you see in TV shows. Yeah.
for sure.
Excuse me.
Um, that's fine. So Vision gets the piece of gum and eats it, and then as he's chewing it, I forget who it is that slaps him on the back. Herb, maybe. I used to know all their names. I don't know all their names now. The neighbors, but someone slaps him on the back, and he swallows the gum.
Yeah,
And we get this little animated thing that shows it going down his throat into gears.
which doesn't even
And
make
I'm sitting here, it doesn't make any sense.
because he doesn't have gears.
He doesn't have gears. Like he's in a body that was printed in the regeneration cradle in Age of Ultron. Where are the gears being
Right.
printed? Like it makes no sense. So
That's a funny gag.
it's a very funny like bit, but
Yeah.
I don't understand why they
Well,
did
because
it,
he's a
I guess.
machine. Because I
Yeah,
mean
I know he's a machine.
that technology wouldn't have existed then. So how would he be made? With gears and things like
That's a
that.
good point. That's a good point.
You know,
Yeah. So then we go to the talent show, and it's almost time for Wanda and Vision to go on, and Vision's not there. And then he shows up, and he seems like he's drunk, but obviously we know he's not because Vision can't drink, eat
yeah,
or drink anything. So he doesn't know what's going on, and then suddenly it's time for them to go out there. So they go out there, and the talent show is just hysterical. Like he's doing all this like stuff that he can do. Like he floats up at one point, and so Wanda immediately conjures a rope to make it look like he's on a rope, And then he is lifting the piano, so Wanda turns the piano into like a cardboard stand-up thing and walks off with it, and like all this stuff. And then he does the card trick in the audience.
He's like,
The
"Is this your
last
card?"
card is your card, is the
Yeah,
guy's card. That was really funny too. Um, he kept calling him Sherbert, and I think it's just Herb. His name's
yeah.
Herbert, which was also very funny. Um, and so then it's time to do the Cabinet of Mysteries, and he closes the cabinet without Wanda in it. Wanda's supposed to be in it, and he does the abracadabra thing, and the audience is all like, "Who's gonna? What's gonna be in there? Who's gonna be in there?" So Wanda very quickly gets Geraldine from the back transported into the cabinet, so that when the doors open, it's Geraldine. I found that hysterical.
Yeah,
Hi,
and
Ferris. Thanks
and it
for
was
joining
interesting.
us.
It was interesting in the where they're having that committee meeting. She shows up. I mean, obviously we know down the line what's going on, but
Geraldine, yeah.
she kind of shows up out of nowhere. You know.
Yeah, that's one of my things for the next section. We're going to talk about like clues we picked up on and little
Yeah.
things we picked up on. But they try to sneak off. Wanda gets the gum out of his system. We see the little animated thing again of the gum coming out of the gears up his throat, and then it just appears out of his mouth in their reality. And they try to escape without Dottie seeing them, but of course she does.
Yeah.
And she calls them hilarious and gives them the inaugural Comedy Performance of the Year award.
Which is sure.
Sure.
Yeah, you're like, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they go home, and you know they're having this whole conversation, and again bringing up kids. And they were all cheering
Mm-hmm.
that at the thing. They're like, do it for the kids, or sorry
For the children.
for the
For the
children.
children.
Yeah, which is okay. That's weird. Um, you know,
Yeah.
because they're all saying it, and then they go home and they're talking, and all of a sudden they turn. She turns, or I think they're like facing each other, and she has a stomach now, and she's
Yeah.
like, "Is this really happening?" And then when she says that, they go into color.
Well,
Everything.
before they go into color, we
Okay,
hear a
good.
loud noise from outside.
Oh yeah,
And they
banging again.
go out there, and it's someone crawling out of the manhole in the street as a beekeeper.
Yes, and she says no, or what did she say?
She
No.
says no
Yeah.
and rewinds to where they are right after Vision noticed that she was pregnant. And then it just continues from there. We never hear again about this beekeeper
Yeah.
except for seeing the guy that becomes the beekeeper, crawling through the things to try to get into underneath the hex, as we will learn it is called by the S.W.O.R D people. But we never see like what happened to that guy,
Mm.
like again. But then everything starts to turn to color, which I think we could turn the color on our cameras on now.
Gotta find
Here
mine.
we go.
There we
That's
go.
not the right one. There we go. No, I don't know which one was the right one. Definitely not that one. Okay, but the color on the cameras, color on everything comes back out, and that's the end of the episode. I loved this because it sort of felt like, okay, we're done with the 50s as a decade. Let's
Yeah, it
move
was
into the 60s
60s. Yeah,
now.
60s moving into the 70s. Like when I went
60s
to
into the
color.
70s,
Yeah,
yeah.
when I
When
went
the
to
color
color,
TV came in.
it felt like Brady
Yeah.
Bunch. Like
Yeah. And I think that episode 3, from what I remember, is very heavily like Brady Bunch influenced.
yeah. So that was interesting, especially because the color came when she became pregnant. Um,
Yeah.
and and then she's like, "Oh, is this really happening?" And you're obviously like, "Okay, what's going on here?" Because you know, Vision can't have kids.
Yeah.
So you could I know you said like that was gonna be the next part, like clues. Well, that's a clue. Like, how did she get pregnant if Vision can't have kids?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
like, hmm, that again, interesting.
Yeah. So I wrote down a couple of things that I remembered or didn't quite notice on the first watch, But again, I don't really remember if I noticed these or not because I haven't watched the show in 5 years. Um, First was the Agnes mentioning Ralph, her husband. I
Hmm.
didn't remember she mentioned him in this episode.
A lot.
This a lot, yeah. The second was that she shows up with Senor Scratchy, her pet rabbit. A lot of people speculated that that was her son or her husband in rabbit form. Like the rabbit was Ralph.
Okay.
Remember that? Yeah.
Yes.
Then we had Dottie saying at the planning meeting, the devil's in the details. And Agnes responds by saying, that's not the only place he is, which is, I think, what launched 1,000 Mephisto rumors.
Right.
Everyone was convinced Mephisto was going to show up in this show. He
Yes,
does
that was the
not.
thing. Yeah, he doesn't. What show does he show up in? What the I'll go.
Ironheart. He shows up in Ironheart.
The most random
It's
non-magical
so
movie or
random.
show. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so random. And then at the planning committee meeting again, Wanda introduces herself to Geraldine, and Geraldine goes, I'm Geraldine. Like she had to think of the name real quick because obviously she's not under the same spell everybody else in there is.
Mhm.
So we don't know that yet, but we will find that out in the next episode, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I noticed. Did you notice anything else?
I mean, again just her snapping out of the character. It's
Mm-hmm.
and other people snapping out of the character of their characters and kind of like this worrisome look or pleading for help kind of situation.
Yeah.
Um, Again, them not they're kind of like living a TV show, um, but they like they're having trouble like living it. Like
Mm-hmm.
things happen and like it kind of kickstarts something, but then it goes back to being in the TV show. So that was very
Yeah.
interesting of how they did that. And like I said, just that I noticed a lot was her and other characters coming out of being in the TV show and kind of reverting back to who they are and then going back to the TV show. I noticed that a lot in these last two episodes in these two episodes.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Shug, your overall thoughts on the episodes.
Good. Again, I love the nostalgia. It takes me back to I Love Lucy. Those shows. I really enjoyed that. And again, I like how they made this show a Marvel show very grounded. It was very down to
Mm-hmm.
earth. Nothing like there was like little things like the magic show or like her trying to make dinner in the first episode.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it wasn't like this big old Marvel superhero thing. It was nice. It was refreshing.
Yeah, I agree. This was so different than I thought it was going to be somehow.
Yeah.
Um, I love the way these first two episodes play out, and I think it's just a wonderful addition to the MCU. I know a lot of people got really upset by the end of this because we didn't have all the answers or whatever, and because they started to make Wanda a villain. But I think this was needed for Wanda because she goes back and forth on that kind of stuff in the comics.
Yeah.
So, um, love this. Love the show, and I can't wait to watch the rest of it again. We will be back in 2 weeks' time with episodes 3 and 4. Shug, where can people find you?
They can find me here doing a rewatchers council with you. They can find me on all our sports show channel, doing a bunch of shows over there. And we just did a couple trailers today, and we'll be doing some more once we see that Doc Doomsday trailer come out. Hopefully that will come out soon. And we'll be doing that, and yeah, just follow me anywhere LGR is at, and you can find me.
You can also find Shug on this channel tomorrow night for the debut episode of The Pulse, our entertainment news recap show. That's going to be every other week on this channel on Friday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific. Tomorrow we're talking about, did James Gunn secretly cast Wonder Woman while trying to pass it off as Maxima. We'll debate that. We'll talk about CinemaCon. We'll talk about a bunch of stuff that you might enjoy. So come check it out. The debut episode of The Pulse on this channel, the post credits, 7 p.m. Pacific on tomorrow, on Friday. So if you are watching later, check out the old episodes of The Pulse, because you know, who knows when people are going to watch this episode. So
Right.
check it out. It's our new show. We're going to be doing it every other week on this channel, and then and then on the opposite weeks, we're going to be on Good Friends Better Rivals, talking sports and sports news and all that good stuff. So, you can find me here with the Rewatchers Council and on the Pulse, and you can find me on Good Friends Better Rivals doing Starting 11, and I believe I'm going to be on Playoff Beards tomorrow night, and we've got the Step Back on Saturday over there with
Got a lot
Shug
going
and
on.
Josh. We have a lot going on right now, so do check it out. We're going to be watching some golf over there this weekend. A lot going on the
A lot
sports
going on.
channel. A lot going on here as well. So thank you everyone for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Later.